All right, so in our last explainer, we dove deep into this invisible world of radio frequency interference. Now it's time to talk about the solutions. How do we actually fight back against all that noise that messes with our connected lives?
So, just to set the stage, this is part 10 of our 12-part series, and it's all based on that really comprehensive report from Virtualization Options LLC. We're jumping right into chapter 10, which is all about mitigation and protection. We spent a lot of time talking about the problems and the threats, so now let's get into the good stuff, the solutions. I mean, just look at this. It really hammers home the point, doesn't it? Our world is just saturated with signals. You've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, your cell phone, even broadcast radio. And they're all fighting for the exact same, very limited space. It's like a massive, invisible traffic jam. And that's really the heart of the problem we're trying to solve. So yeah, how do we fight back? That's the billion-dollar question, right? When the airwaves are this packed, how do you possibly carve out a clean lane for your own signals? And this isn't just about getting slightly faster internet to stream your shows. No, this is about making sure our entire connected world actually stays reliable.
Okay, so let's start where this probably hits home the most, literally in your own home. We're going to walk through some really practical, actionable things you can do, like right now, to make your Wi-Fi better, faster, and way more stable. Think of it like a simple 4-step playbook to win the Wi-Fi war in your house. First, you got to survey the area. Then you position for success. After that, you pick a clean channel. And finally, you optimize your settings. Simple as that.
Okay, step 1, survey your area. A little recon. I mean, you wouldn't build a house without checking out the land first, right? Same idea here. You can grab an app, something like Wi-Fi Analyzer, and it'll literally show you what your router sees, all the different Wi-Fi networks from your neighbors that are causing congestion. Then comes positioning. And honestly, this is so important. Please, whatever you do, don't hide your router in a cabinet or shove it in a corner. That's like the worst thing you can do. You want it out in the open, somewhere central, preferably up high, and definitely away from things that block signals, like big metal objects or things that create interference, like your microwave.
Okay, now we get to a really fundamental choice you have to make. The 2.4 gigahertz band versus the 5 gigahertz band. Think of 2.4 gigahertz as the old, crowded country road. Yeah, it goes a long way and gets through obstacles pretty well, but it's an absolute traffic jam. It's sharing space with your microwave, your Bluetooth headphones, baby monitors, you name it. And it really only has 3 clear lanes, channels 1, 6, and 11. Now 5 gigahertz, that's the brand new multi-lane superhighway. It's way less congested, way faster. The catch? The range isn't as good. So the takeaway here is, for your most important gadgets, your work laptop, your smart TV, if they're close enough to the router, getting them on that 5 gigahertz highway is an absolute game changer. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of your router settings. Remember that survey you did? Use it to manually pick the quietest channel out of 1, 6, or 11. Seriously, don't just leave it on auto. Your router isn't always as smart as you think. Next up is channel width. I love this analogy. Think of a wide channel as a big semi-truck. Sure, it can carry more stuff, more data, but on a crowded road, it's going to cause problems and clip the other cars. In a packed apartment building, switching to a narrower 20 megahertz width is like hopping on a nimble motorcycle. You might not carry as much at once, but you'll get through the traffic way more reliably. And here's one that sounds weird but really works. Sometimes you need to turn the power down. If you're in a dense area, cranking your router to max power is just you shouting over all your neighbors, who are also shouting. By turning it down a notch, you reduce that interference and actually create a better, more stable environment for everybody.
Okay, so that's a whole bunch of stuff we can do at home. But what about the big guys? Let's zoom out a bit and look at how the cellular networks, the absolute backbone of our mobile world, tackle this problem on a massive scale. One of their coolest tricks is something called adaptive modulation. And this is it's brilliant. Imagine you're on a call and you walk into an area with a ton of interference. Instead of your phone just giving up and dropping the call, the network can actually tell it, hey, switch gears, use a tougher, more rugged way of sending the data. Now, it might be a little slower, sure, but the key is your connection survives. The network is literally choosing to be stable instead of fast, just to keep you online. So smart. And that's just one tool in their arsenal. These cellular providers have a whole toolkit. They're constantly scanning the airwaves, looking for problems. And when they find one, they can send out these direction-finding teams. You can basically think of them as radio detectives, hunting down the source of the interference.
They're working with the FCC, they're beefing up their networks with small cells in crowded places, and now with 5G, they have beamforming. This is incredible. It's like having a smart spotlight for radio waves that they can aim directly at your phone, steering it around any obstacles or interference. It is a constant, high-tech war being fought against this invisible noise.
And just in case anyone thinks about causing interference on purpose, you need to see this. The stakes are insanely high. We're not talking about a little slap on the wrist here. The FCC is crystal clear. Using a jamming device is a serious federal crime. We're talking massive fines per day, and it makes perfect sense why they take it so seriously. You could be the person who blocks someone's 911 call from getting through. It's no joke. Which brings us to a really crucial point. The big networks, the government, they can't do this all by themselves. Keeping our airways clean is actually a shared responsibility, and that means you, me, every single one of us has a role to play. So this isn't just some abstract problem for engineers in a lab somewhere. When you experience a weird, persistent outage that you just can't explain, telling someone about it is a huge deal. Your report becomes a vital clue in a much larger puzzle. It can help the network operators find out what's going on, whether it's just some busted equipment or something more serious, like an illegal jam. So what can you actually do? Well, here's the playbook. If your cell service drops at the exact same spot on your commute every single day, that is not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And you should report it to your cell provider. Tell them exactly where, what time, what happens. You can even file a complaint directly with the FCC. Think about it. Your report is a data point, and enough of those data points are exactly what those radio detectives need to connect the dots and hunt down the problem. And that really leaves us with this one big critical question for the future. You have to remember, the radio spectrum is a finite resource. It's like clean air or fresh water. There's only so much of it. And as we race towards this future where we have billions and billions more connected devices, everything from our cars to our coffee makers, this fight for clear airwaves is only going to get more intense. So, who's ultimately responsible for keeping it clean? Is it the companies making the gadgets, the networks that provide the service, the government, or is it all of us? It's definitely something to think about.